You finally finished a track, but then comes the real challenge. How do I release it? In this video, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at my track to release series where we make your next viral edit and I show you exactly how to release it. In the first episode, I will show you how to prep for your own viral edit. In the second part of this video, I will show you some of the marketing schemes on how you can create your own artwork using AI. I've coached over 300 producers on a one-on-one basis, and this is the exact workflow I get them to make them feel confident about releasing their own music. If you want to watch a full 15-part course, then head to the first link in the bio. You can pick it up on a discounted rate, and for anyone who purchases, I will give you a free month inside Serotonin Studio where you can find other courses just like this and plenty of other useful tips, tricks and learning resources, all to help level up your music. So enjoy the video and I will see you in the track to release series. So welcome to the first part of the track to release series. And in this part, we're going to go over how to start building your edit. And more specifically, we're going to go and have a look at how to research and find a correct track to edit, because there's no point making an edit of a track which is going to be really difficult to execute and may lead to poor results. So the first thing you need to do is figure out what song you want to edit. Now, as I just mentioned, you want to make sure that it is something that we can easily research and find out more information about. So that typically means that it's going to be a popular song of past or present. So my favorite way to find out songs that I want to edit is actually Spotify. So Spotify is great because it has the recommended playlist for you. And typically as well, if you've been on Spotify for a while, it will show you sort of your past most listened to tracks. And it will also go via sort of era as well. So you'll have like early 2000s, it might do a 2010 mix, maybe even like a 2020 mix. And through there, you can actually research and find out some popular songs that obviously you like, because you still need to like the track that you're going to edit. But that's typically the way I always go about finding the tracks I'm going to edit. And then what I do is just add it to my liked and just take note of it or keep them in there for future reference. Now, something we need to cover is the difference between sampling and an actual edit. Now, the way I define this is sampling is taking a vocal or maybe another element from someone else's work and then incorporating it into our own track, which is typically an original beat. An edit is something that we are heavily being influenced by. So we're probably going to be using the full vocal, we'll be using melodic elements, and we will be trying to replicate or even finding the original stems of that track. So a really good contrast to show you this is this track up here, which I found earlier this week, which is a J. Cole track. And I really liked the vocal and the bounce of it. Now, there's not enough elements in this track to actually make it an edit and flip it into a minimal deep tech track. But I could sample the vocal and make an original beat and add the vocal to it. So that's how I would go about sampling. But then on the other end of the spectrum with making an edit, we want to find stuff with more melodic elements that's already going to fit fairly well into a minimal deep tech track. Stuff like I found down here earlier. So this one here and the other one above it. And then, of course, the one that we are going to be editing today throughout this series by Nelly Furtado and Timbaland. So that's step number one, is making sure you know the difference between sampling and actually making an edit, because it's really important for what we are trying to achieve, which is that kind of viral success. So the more we can lean in to a super well-known pop song or R&B song, doesn't really matter on the genre, the better chance we have at that viral success. So now that we've established that, now we need to think about, okay, how are we actually going to find the original elements of a track and start incorporating that into a minimal deep tech track? Now, what I would always do, now the easiest way to do that is actually by picking a very well-known or popular track, something that's probably been in the top 40s, if not top 10s of when it was released. Because this means that we're more likely to find MIDI packs or recreations on YouTube where we can actually then go and create it ourselves, plus do some general research into the types of sounds they were using and all of those sort of things. That is super important to then trying to recreate it, not just sample it and hope for the best. And Google's really going to become your best friend for this, because we can research and try and find out more about the track that we want to edit. So For example, the one we're going to do, I can just type in and we can try and find the a cappella to begin with. Because if we can't find a high quality a cappella or vocal, then there's no point making the track whatsoever, because that's what most people are going to be paying attention to. And trust me, I've worked with plenty of artists where they've tried to make an edit and the a cappella has been like an AI extraction, and it's just not good enough to really carry the track forward and make it stand out to give you that viral success you want. So once we go there, we can type this in and we can type in a cappella. Obviously, I've done my research for this video, so I know that there was a bunch of acapellas already on YouTube or that I could have purchased if I wanted to. So this is the one I found, and just to show you what it sounds like in Ableton, it's a super high quality vocal, which sounds a bit like this.
I'm all alone, and it's you that I want. Promiscuous boy, you already know that I'm all yours. What you waiting for?
I have put a tiny bit of processing on there already, which we'll go over at some point, but you can tell that a cappella has been probably ripped from the actual vinyl itself when it was released, instead of, you know, just AI extraction, because you do get those horrible like artifacts in the AI extraction, and sometimes it's okay, but most of the time it's just not up to scratch. Remember, step 1, make sure you find a good song to edit, preferably a popular pop song. Step 2, make sure you can find a high quality version of the a cappella or vocal. Step 3, not giving you a middle finger to the camera, is trying to find original elements. Now, we could actually try and type in stems. See if we can find the actual stems itself. Now, this is actually a bit more difficult because it means that they would have had to sold the stems at some point, or there would have been remixes. And sometimes as well, there's kind of dodgy websites and they might charge you for this and it may not actually be legit. So it's not my preferred way to go about things, but you can definitely try. So my preferred way of going about things is actually searching for the MIDI pack. Now, the reason for this is because the MIDI pack is going to be easy to recreate, because someone with really good musical knowledge is going to be able to tell the chords and the progressions and how it rolls within the beat. And this is exactly why we want to find a popular pop song, because the more popular it was, the more chance we're going to find these MIDI packs or ways of finding out what the MIDI is so we can recreate it. So the track that we're going to edit in this video, I had a look on a few different websites, and there was this one here which actually downloaded for MIDI, but the problem was it wasn't separated. So it was super confusing to figure out what was the chord progression, what was the bass, what was the drum MIDIs. It was an absolute mess. So I didn't use that one, but then in the past I've done this with MIDI packs and they've separated it all out onto different MIDI channels, which is what we want. What I used for this one was this online sequencer. So you can see there, it's just a piano roll and it's got all the notes for the melody and all the chord progressions, stuff like that. So you can see how this website is providing with all the information that I need to recreate everything. And then off camera, I went through this and separated everything correctly, which we will go through at a later date. Now, this is time consuming, and I know it seems like a bit of housework and almost chores before you actually get going, but trust me, you need to do all of this to make sure the edit is going to stand a good chance of sounding good and sounding like the original. Please don't rush it and use the AI extractions and the splitters, because I can guarantee you it's not going to sound as good as it possibly could if you just spend a few hours recreating it yourself. So that's step number 3, is go and find the MIDI and preferably try and get a MIDI pack to save you a lot of time. Once you've done that, and then you've got all the MIDI inside Ableton, it is then a case of recreating the sounds. Now, this is where it takes a bit more time and actually a bit of research to figure out what the sounds are. Now, how do you go about doing the research? So that's where you would go onto Google and try and type in the instruments. And there's bound to be Reddit forums and stuff like that on here telling you what instruments are used. There you go, main synth that appears at 036. You'll be able to find out through here what kind of sounds. We live in such a great world nowadays where you could just try it with AI, right? Let's start a new chat and go, explain to me what the instruments are within excuse my terrible spelling. And I can guarantee you this is going to prompt us with pretty much everything we need. See what I mean? It's still going, it's still spitting out really good information. And you could further prompt this with more detail. If you don't understand how to use AI, it's really more about the prompts that you give it to get the most from it. So, you know, for example, you could tell it to become Timbaland and explain how he made the beat for this track, and it would go into way more detail. Another really good way to do your research on the track you want to edit is go onto YouTube, and we can type in our track, and we can go for recreation. And there we go, instrumental remake. So you could watch that. You can maybe see what this guy's doing as well. Check out the comments, see if anyone's putting any useful information that you can then pull apart to really then help you decide what sounds are being used. So that's kind of step number 4. Step number 5 is then just a lot of trial and error, and this is exactly why I've done this off screen, to save you guys a lot of time when watching this video. Now that we've gone through all the key steps that you need to do to create the original elements of a track that you want to edit, let's actually run through what I was able to recreate, and let's compare it to the original. So let's just have a look at the main lead sound that's playing from beginning to end in this track. So we're listening to this one here.
Young lady, the feeling that you're giving really drives me crazy. You don't have a play about the choke. I was at a loss for word first time that we spoke.
And that one actually really stumped me because I couldn't figure out what it was. And it sounds obviously very old school, raw and authentic, which you would expect from a Timbaland production and also the kind of era when this track came out. But from the research that I previously mentioned in step 4, I was able to find out that it was some kind of flute sound. Then from there, I was able to do some sample dinging. Now, you could use Splice for this. You could search through Splice and find flute sounds. Or my favorite and preferred way of doing it is having something like Analog Lab or Omnisphere or any kind of equivalent plugin which gives you just a crap ton of presets to search through. And that's exactly how I found this one. So I was just able to search in the search bar, flutes, I'll flick through a few different ones and then find this. Now, is it perfect? No, but we're not going for a dead-on recreation. We're trying to almost remake the track into our own way with this edit. And I think with some more mixing and fine-tuning with some plugins and stuff, we can really get that to sound quite similar. So let's move on to sound number 2, which is the kind of chord stab that plays in the chorus.
You is girl, whatever you are, I'm all alone, and it's you that I want. Promiscuous boy, you already know that I'm all yours. What you waiting for?
So I was able to figure out that was kind of some brass or chord stab. And again, I used the same principle of searching it all through Analog Lab. And I just sat there for, honestly, took me about half an hour searching through presets to find a specific one I was after. But I was able to get several different layers to then get this sound. Now, my one's a bit brighter and a bit more full and thick. Completely fine. Like I said, we're almost going for a remake here instead of a recreation. Just to show you what the different layers sound like, we've got this one. Then we've got lead 2, which is a bit more high pitch, giving that kind of wobble to it. And then more of a pad layer, helping just give that more atmosphere. So that was the recreation of that one. And then there's one more key sound that we need to get for creating this edit. And that is this tiny little top lead pluck that comes in halfway through the chorus. Now for this one, you're really gonna have to just dial in and pay close attention to the track because it's super faint and in the background, but we're looking for this quite quick pluck that plays in the background and it's very like lo-fi and kind of distorted. So let me just play it out for you.
What you waiting for? Promiscuous girl, you teasing me. You know what I want, and I got what you need.
And I absolutely love that sound, so I wanted to make sure my version was just a bit brighter and I could play with that sound a bit more apparent in the mix. So this is what I was able to recreate. And I think I got pretty close. Again, this was just Analog Lab, me sitting there flicking through different brass and chord stabs until I found something similar. The more you do your research, like I mentioned in step 4, the easier it's going to become to find and figure out these sounds. But I can assure you it will pay off with the end result instead of just rushing things and doing the AI extraction like I mentioned previously. Now, you've probably picked up on there's quite a few different plugins on these channels already, because the problem that we're going to have when recreating our edits is a lot of the tracks that we're going to be wanting to make an edit of are probably really old school, well produced, might even be using analog equipment. And because we're using digital VST plugins, we're going to get that kind of bright, warmer digital sound. So we're going to have to rely on a few different plugins to really help create that old school sound. And throughout this series, you're going to see me using these two a lot. So starting with RC20, if you've been on this member site for a while, you would see me using this one quite a lot. In fact, I've even done a video on this in the top 5 plugins for Q1 of this year. So go and check that out for more detail. But in short, we have different modules which are helping create that more old school analog sound. And it's very similar with this one up here, which is by Waves, called Retro 5. You can see we've got different modules in the device section, so 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. There are different space settings, so reverbs, echoes. It will add some white noise, which you might be hearing in the background every now and again when I take it off solo. And there's different mechanics which create that wobble and detuning effect. So let me just play this sound with these two off so you can really hear the difference that it's making. Huge difference in that character, making it sound a bit more old school. It still just doesn't compare to the actual original on Timbaland. I mean, I've watched a few YouTube videos on Timbaland and he pretty much just uses like one synth, or he definitely used to like back in the day when he started, which is, you know, just absolutely crazy. Didn't even like save his projects or anything like that. He would just like make it all in one sitting and then export it. I mean, yeah, no wonder why he's one of the best producers out there. Anyways, I digress. Now, to go back to what I was talking about with this processing, I've done this on pretty much all the sounds. So if I go to the lead sound, you would see that I've been doing it on there. So Retrofy, Redux, which is desampling. So that is a stock Ableton one. So that's just making it sound worse in effect, which is kind of what we want with this more old school sound. Redux on that one, and nothing on that pad layer, which I will probably do later on. And I've definitely done it on this flute bass as well. So RC20, sidechain, rolling off a lot of high end as well. This is a really good, easy way to help create a bit more of an old school sound. Just roll off some of that top end. Not too much, but just enough to get rid of those brighter artifacts within the sound. And then all together, it's sounding a bit like this so far.
Promiscuous girl, whatever you are, I'm all alone, and it's you that I want. Promiscuous boy, you already know that I'm all yours. What you waiting for? Promiscuous girl, you teasing me. You know what I want, and I got what you need. Promiscuous boy, let's get to the point, 'cause we on a roll. You ready?
So pretty good recreation, right? It sounds a bit more lively, a bit more full, a bit more modern, probably because of the VSTs and stuff like that. But it's a really good starting point for us to then start building our own minimal tech track on. So we're going to leave it there for part 1, because I really want to hammer home and make sure you guys are doing your research and doing this before you actually get going on creating your edit. So just to go over what the main points were in this video. Step number 1. Find a popular song that works well for an edit. So ideally, you're going to be looking at hip hop, R&B, or already dance music or electronic music, because this is going to be really easy to warp and get in time to our kind of 125 to 130 BPM range. Step number 2, make sure you find a high quality vocal of the original. Step number 3, do some research and try and find a MIDI pack, or find a keyboard roll where someone has laid out the chord progressions and the melodies for you. Step number 4, go through and recreate it by doing research. And step number 4, do your research to find out what sounds the artists were using from forums like Reddit or YouTube videos where people have recreated it. Then It's about getting stuck into it, spending a bit of time and recreating it like I've gone through here. But once you've done that, you're going to be in a really good position to start building your own sort of touches on top of it. So I'll see you in part 2, where we start elevating this and putting our own spin. The Track to Release series. In this episode, we are going to go over how to create your own artwork for your track. So this is actually much easier than you would think nowadays with the power of AI and also other useful tools like Fiverr and sort of more cheaper graphic designers. So let's go over how we kind of want to approach the artwork and the best way to go about it. So first of all, we want to kind of think about what our intentions are with the artwork. So really, we want to make sure that it's an edit. Just the first image that people see, we want to make sure it's nice and clear that they know it's an edit of an original song they probably know. We also want to make it clear that our artist name is on it as well, just from a promotion point of view. There's no point just getting the original cover art and then not putting your name on it anywhere, because then people aren't going to realize that it's actually your piece of work. And for me, I think it's really important to have nods and hints to the original that you made the edit from. I just think it's nice, authentic, and has that cool artistic flair to it. So I found some examples of some bad ones and some good ones. So let's start with the bad ones. Let's have a look at these two here. These two I would deem as bad artworks for edits because they don't really make it clear what they are or what they're about. This first one looks like it's part of some kind of makeup beauty page on Instagram. Yes, it does say XYT remix on the bottom, but so much blank space. I believe that is the artist, Nelly, but who knows? It doesn't look like her there, to be honest. So it's just a bit misleading and confusing. And very much with this other one, although it's a bit edgy, maybe it's a drum and bass remix, I don't know, maybe it doesn't give us any indication that it's a Nelly Furtado track and that it's been a super popular pop song. Then moving over to the mid ones, these ones are much better because they're very clean looking. So they've got obviously Nelly Furtado in both of them, which is great. But again, there's no text that it is her. I wouldn't know what she looked like until I started doing research. This could, again, be a bit misleading. And the other things to think about are the artist names. So, for example, this top one up here, you've got the Mark Walker in there, but in my opinion, it should be some much bolder text or maybe even a contrast color. So like a red or an orange or a yellow. So it really pops out against that blue. And, it's very clear that it's Mark Walker's work and it's not just promiscuous up the top. Same with this one, although it's bolder and clearer, that is DJ Pancha. That then gives no indication that it's an edit of Promiscuous. Now, these two over here are much better. So we have this one up the top here, which I believe is maybe like a remix or something, because it says featuring Timbaland, which the original does have, and then Nicki Minaj, which obviously the original doesn't have. So maybe this is a remix of Nicki Minaj or something. I think the aesthetics are very good, very clean. Very clear that it's Nelly Furtado, very clear of the track name. Maybe that could be a bit bigger, but if it's an official release, maybe it doesn't matter as much. So not the end of the world. And then this one's pretty cool as well. It's obviously got Nelly and Timbaland in it as well, which is a nice touch. But I probably would have said that the Lucas and Francis edit part could be a bit bolder and sort of stick out a little bit more. So there's some examples to think about what I would deem personally as bad, mid, and kind of good artworks for creating your edits. But the main thing is, don't complicate it too much. It is only edit artwork at the end of the day, and the track is more important. So next up is, how do we source our artwork? How do we create it? First up, you've got graphic designers. Graphic designers are great because they are professional standard, especially if you get a good one. And you can pretty much get exactly what you want with a bit of back and forth work with that graphic designer. The only problem is it can be a bit expensive depending on who you work with. It can be time consuming as well, especially if a graphic designer is busy and if you have lots of revisions to get it right. And if you get a bad graphic designer, you can be worse off than you started because you pay out a load of money on a bunch of crap. I would highly suggest, if you want to go down the graphic designer route, Matt R Designs. Some of you may recognize the name, which is Matt R, the artist. He makes really good minimal deep tech music. He does all my artwork for Serotonin Studios and Serotonin Records as well. He does absolutely everything, and I'd highly suggest using him if you don't want to have a go at creating your own art. But hopefully you see as we go on, it's very easy to do so. Now, the day and age we live in with AI, we can use AI to create our artwork. It's very useful. It's a very powerful tool. And if you're not using it, at the moment, then you are absolutely sleeping and getting left behind in the modern world. So pros, easy to use, saves loads of time, and it's free as well 90% of the time. Cons, it can be a bit frustrating if you don't know how to use it. It's a lot on trial and error. If you don't know how to use it, you may never get exactly what you want because it is artificial intelligence. It's not smart enough to do exactly what you say as of yet. The main thing is you just need to know how to prompt AI to get the most from it. For people who say that AI is rubbish, are just not using it correctly. And then we have self-designing, which I would probably recommend doing in Canva, or you've got like Photoshop or anything like that. But Canva is very good. It's very easy to use and understand. Pros of this, skill development. Using something like Canva is going to be a very good skill for you to develop over time for your content creation and your ability to make content as an artist. It's also pretty low cost. It's just going to cost you time and maybe a Canva membership, which is like 10 quid a month. Cons though, it's difficult with no experience. It's something else to learn at the end of the days. You may have to pay. Like I said, Canva is 10 quid. So if you're 10 quid short, you may struggle with that. And you may never get what you want because the limiting factor is yourself and not knowing how to use the software. So what is the best one to use? Well, in my opinion, it's a balance of them all. Let me run you through what I created and what I recommend you guys to do as well. Start off AI for ideation. This is what I prompted AI with. I said, I'm trying to create some artwork for my edit that I'm self-releasing. I want to pay respect to my original artwork styles and colors, but also want to put my own twist on it. Can you create an artwork design combining these two artworks? Make sure you remove the text from the two demo images and use this as the track title / name. Nelly Furtado, Promiscuous, Brendan James edit. And then I attached those two images to it, which is that one that we previously had a look at in the examples, and then the genuine artwork itself. Now, what it came up with is very impressive. And this is what I mean. If you prompt it and give it the right things, it's going to do exactly like you want. So it's done AI generated Nelly Furtado, and it's put the silhouette in there with the kiss on it. It's got the text spot on, and it's done exactly what I said by putting the text on it. I didn't particularly like it, so I went back and forth with AI until I got that, which is practically the same. You can see I just changed the kiss to white, and then I removed the text because I thought it'd be better to add my own text. So like I said, used the AI for ideation and then used Canva for improvement. So then going into Canva, I ended up with this, which I was pretty happy with, to be honest. So if I just do a side-by-side comparison there, so you can see I've added this cool little retro texture to it. I added the text and the font it recommended based on the image I put in. Then I put this paper cutouts animation on it, and then the Brendan James edit, which is in black, so it's kind of contrasts everything. I've given the image a tint as well to give it this nice 3D effect. And overall, I think it's pretty good, and it's a nice throwback to the original, but it also makes it very clear that it's my own edit. Now, I'm not going to do a full Canva tutorial because I'm not a Canva connoisseur, although I do use it a lot. And there are going to be much better people on YouTube explaining how to use Canva than me. But just to show you how I did this real quick, I will delete a bunch of stuff. Okay, so let me just show you how quick and easy this is to do. So that is the original, put it into Canva on a square. This is just the old Instagram format. Drag it to correct size. Go into edit, and then I just put one of those pixelated bad TV blurs on it. Pretty sure it was one of these. Fuzz, there you go. Save. To get the tint effect, all you need is a blank black square. Bring this all the way up, covering the whole image. Go to the transparency at the top. Bring it down to about 40, 50%. Go to text, add your heading. Track title is going to then recommend a bunch of fonts, adjust the size, change the color. That sticker I added was in the elements. I typed in sort of a paper sticker, paper cutaway. Resize that, get your track stuff done, get your name in there as well. Boom, done. It's really not that difficult to use. If you can use Ableton, you can definitely use Canva, so have a bit of faith in yourself. So that's kind of what I ended up with. And then if you weren't really happy with that, you could send this off to a graphic designer and get them to do some sort of tweaking and improve it, maybe make some adjustments and say like, hey, I want this, but could you maybe make the character look slightly different, something like that. Overall though, I think this is a pretty solid effort. So have a go at it yourself, see how you get on, and let me know. If you run into any issues or need some help with Canva, drop me a message in the Discord and I'll help you out when I can. And I'll see you back for the next video where we look at DJ promoing and getting it off to all of your things. So I hope you enjoyed that video and found it useful. Remember, if you want to see the full course, just go to the first link in the bio. It's on a discounted rate at the moment. And like I said in the beginning, you will get a free month to Serotonin Studio. So what's there to lose? Hopefully I'll see you inside Serotonin Studio. If not, I'll catch you in another video very soon.